Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so that you know when live we go. Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified. In the next 35 minutes, we are going to go through today's newspaper, The Hindu, Delhi edition, dated 20th August 2020. The articles that we shall take up for discussion has been tabulated in front of you, and the timestamping for the same also has been given in the description section. Before we get started with today's discussion of newspaper, let me inform you that today we have posted a new question on our ELEARN platform. These questions are posted every week on Thursday as part of our weekly series of mains question assignment from DNS. The purpose is to increase your utility of DNS so that you also start practicing questions to bring you into the groove of answer writing. Today's question is this: highlight the significance of indigenization of defense technology. In this regard, enumerate the steps taken by Indian government to ensure domestic defense production. This is a 15 marker. You have to answer into 50 words. This question has been created from DNS of 4th of August 2020 from the discussion titled Draft Defense Policy. You may watch the discussion before you start writing answer to this question. There are few instructions that will help you and also us in conducting this program. See, you can either type the answer in the dialog box given here, or you can write the answer on piece of paper, take the image in portrait format, and then you can click this icon of insert image. But please post the answer in the portrait format, otherwise it becomes very inconvenient for the evaluator. And you will be held responsible for any neck complication that develops over the period of time. There is one important thing that you must answer in this dialog box. You should not answer as comment to someone else's answer. For example, two gentlemen have already answered here. You should not go and comment in their answer and upload your image there. You should directly answer in the main thread of the question. Answer writing practice is all about speed. We have to generate speed. We have to write answer within the time limit. That's why practice is needed. It's a kind of training. Unlike any other training, you have to keep track of your progress. So it is highly advised that you keep track of time taken by you in writing the answer. You may also mention the time taken for you to write the answer in the answer sheet that you will upload here. You can also mention the city and the state from where you are posting your answer. This will help us in knowing that students are benefiting across India and DNS is reaching every nook and corner of our country. In the description of this video, there's a link to reach to this page so that you can come here and post your answer to this question. Mains answer writing is a very challenging and exciting thing. It is very satisfying once you get into the groove. So please push yourself and do attempt this question. This is a lead article from page number 6. It has been titled China-Russia Ties as a Major Determinant. Determinant means the determining factor, the one that decides the other variables. And the article has been written in the context of India's relationship with three countries, US, Russia and China. The article is suggesting that as the signs are that China and Russia will get into an alliance, because already they have shown very warm relationship. And if such an alliance develops, then that is going to hamper India's relationship with China, Russia and also US. Because in such kind of alliance, China would have an upper hand. Dependence of Russia on China will increase, and that is going to make Russia less politically dependable as the Soviet Union was. That is why, although the article is entirely based on China-Russia relationship, but it does affect India's strategic response and hence is relevant for the mains examination. In June 2019, Chinese President Xi Jinping described Russian President Putin as my best friend and colleague. The author is suggesting that this was the rare moment of publicly shown coziness between the leaders of China and Russia after the establishment of People's Republic of China in 1949. And it has sparked a discussion on whether Chinese and Russians are moving in the direction of formal alliance and what it could mean for the rest of the world. The author says that there is a key triangle in global geopolitics, and the triangle so far has been dominated by United States. United States has developed good relation with Russia and China, and United States has been acting as the fulcrum of this triangle. The relationship of China and Russia individually with United States has been much better than their own relationship until few years back. However, China's role has been critical throughout after its formation. During the Cold War, the Americans were banking on Beijing to check the Russians. And in the time of economic sanction, Russians are banking again on Beijing for the revival of their economy. Additionally, during the time of Cold War, Beijing itself had threat from the Soviet Union. But after the disintegration of Soviet Union, that threat is gone. So China now is ready to partner with Russia. In fact, the author is also suggesting that China is ready to make Russia a junior partner. It is in India's interest that Russia remains strong. If Russia remains strong and politically dependable, that could be a check on assertiveness by China. So in this context, the author is saying that we need to do a proper appraisal of Chinese-Russian relationship, and accordingly we need to calibrate our foreign policy strategy. The author has given various arguments that China is growing stronger, and in this key triangle, it is taking a larger space at the cost of Russia. The increased Chinese-Russian bonhomie is building on three pillars. One is a peaceful boundary. Historically, China and Russia had border conflict. But recently, both of them have shown the willingness to overcome the border controversy. The trade has been ever expanding between China and Russia, especially after the Western sanction has been imposed. And they both share the distrust of American intention. Both are fearful of regime change engineered by US in their countries. So the situation as being sensed by the author is like this. Russia and China are increasing their partnership. Russia is shrinking in its space. China is growing in its space. And even under these circumstances, the relationship is growing stronger. Partly the reason is sanction imposed by the West that has pushed the Russians closer to China. The falling oil prices in the last 2 years and the fear of new sanctions on the Russian gas supplies has demolished the core of the Russian exports to Europe, which is gas. And this has compelled the Russians to look for the oil guzzling economy of China. Because of the sanctions imposed by US, the construction of Nord Stream 2 has not been completed yet, which was supposed to be completed by now. The Nord Stream that was made operational in 2012 was for the supply of gas from Russia to Germany and then onwards to other parts of Europe. Similarly, the Nord Stream 2 was under construction and was supposed to be completed by now, but because of the fear of the sanction of US on purchase of gas from Russia, the construction has been delayed. So Russians have been looking for an alternative market and alternative construction of gas supply pipeline. Also, because of the sanction, Russia-Chinese trade has more than doubled to the present $108 billion. The Russian central bank has also increased its Chinese currency reserves from less than 1% to current 13%. And lately, China has also surpassed Germany as the principal supplier of industrial part and technology. If you push a nation to the wall, the nation will definitely look for edges to find its way. Russia sees that edge in China. Iran also has seen the edge in China. That is why the previous dispensation in US was more pragmatic by not suppressing these nations too much. The Barack Obama administration got into a nuclear deal with Iran. The Trump administration cancelled it and failed to negotiate a new deal. And we have heard that Iran is also going to get into a 25-year agreement with China. So in the process of destroying one competitor, you ended up creating a bigger one. But the increased warmth in the relationship of China and Russia has not been caused by US sanction alone. There are certain strategic measures that China has proactively taken. For instance, most of the Chinese export to Russia are high-end technology related. while the share of labor-intensive goods has declined. But the Russian exports have continued to focus on raw materials, especially oil and gas. Chinese have engaged very aggressively on multilateral forum with Russia. They have increased sophisticated joint military exercises, and they also have increased the collaborative activities in third country like Iran, also like in Afghanistan. And this has increased the Western belief that an alliance between Russia and China is in the making. China also has strategically invested in Russia for $400 billion over 30 years for construction of a pipeline to supply gas to China. The pipeline, which is 1800 miles long, has been dubbed as Power of Siberia. Russia has wide gas supply network, and this part of the supply network has been dubbed as Power of Siberia. And right at the border of China, it will deliver the gas. The plan is to extend this pipeline along the Russian-China border and reach till the eastern coast of China. But right now they are focusing on this section. They will extend this eventually to the eastern coast of China. However, Russia is very wary about allowing any dominating role for China in oil and gas. But that is exactly the plan of China. The plan is to integrate the Russian economy into the Chinese by redirecting the Russian oil and gas network eastward. Do you know China has invested immensely in the bond market of US, and that's how it got the US economy integrated into Chinese. Once you integrate the economy of another nation with yours, it is very difficult for the other nation to snap ties with you. And US has been tolerating China, allowing it to grow because of this precise reason. And the same China is trying to apply with Russia. The way to undo any threat from Russia and to force Russia to allow the expansion of China is to integrate Russian economy into Chinese, and this is how they have planned to do this. That is why many political analysts are fearful that Russia is increasingly going to become a junior partner in the relationship with China. However, this is not going to be very easy. There are arguments that the relationship is not as warm as to the level of becoming allies, as US and Japan are, or US and Australia, or even South Korea for that matter. The author points out that there are many Chinese still who grudge the annexation of Chinese territory by the Tsar regime of Russia in the late 19th century, and they want the land back. So although because of the common aim of fighting the US, they have thrown the issue of land border to the back burner, but that is still there. Although in the cold storage, but it will come out in a while. Russians also have concern of the increased Chinese migration in the Russian Far East. And Russian policymakers are aware and concerned about China becoming a threat to Russia's territorial integrity. The author also suggests that both nations also hope to repair ties with Washington. They understand that a long-drawn battle with US will harm them. So there is no long-term meeting of minds of leaders of the two nations. The author also says that Russians have supplied S-400 missile system to China, and Russians are hoping that this was not the last consignment. Russians hope to continue delivering the defense technology to China, and they do not want China to become self-sufficient in defense. So in that case, the cooperation will only be limited to the extent that they will help them fight US. If they don't cooperate in military technology, then their relationship is not warm to the level of becoming allies. So the hope is still there that a very strong alliance will not be developed between these two nations, and hence India needs to recalibrate the foreign policy with regard to Russia. The author reiterates that there is growing asymmetry in the relationship between China and Russia, and China's preeminence presence, including in Russia's backyard, like Central Asia and Arctic region, increasingly is putting Moscow in the danger of permanently becoming the junior partner. The author is suggesting that we need to check this at any cost. The author has used the words of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, which she said in Moscow in 1982. The garden of friendship, like any other gardens, must be consistently tended. Tended means to make, to move in a particular direction. The author ends the article at this. He does not suggest how the friendship will be tended. But we have done that already in the DNS dated 29th of July 2020. See if you remember some of the ways in which the relationship with Russia can be improved and if you can add something more to that. There is a news on page number 1. Supreme Court confirms CBI probe into Sushant's death. The death of actor Sushant Singh Rajput has created many controversies. One of the controversy was regarding the role of the Central Investigating Agency CBI. Bihar government wanted CBI to take up the case. Maharashtra government did not. Parallel investigation was happening in the state of Bihar and state of Maharashtra because the alleged crime happened in Maharashtra, but the effect of that was felt in Bihar in the form of suffering of the family. Also, the call was sent from Sushant to his father, who was putting up at that time in Bihar. So in the opinion of Supreme Court, case can be registered in Bihar as well. Howsoever, Supreme Court has finally settled this controversy and has asked CBI to probe into the Sushant Singh Rajput's death case. Here we will discuss those aspects that are important from the examination perspective. First of all, I'll give you a quick refresher regarding the establishment of CBI. Central Bureau of Investigation traces its origin to Special Police Establishment, which was set up in 1941 by Government of India. The purpose of a Special Police Establishment was to investigate the cases of bribery and corruption in the War and Supply Department during World War II. But after the war, the government enacted Delhi Special Police Establishment Act 1946. This act provided for constitution of a special force to investigate offences of alleged corruption. The role of CBI is similar to this specially constituted force back then, and CBI also derives its power from Delhi Special Police Establishment Act 1946. Remember this. After promulgation of this act, the Special Police Establishment was transferred to the Home Department, and still today CBI functions under Home Ministry. But CBI was formed by resolution of Home Ministry in 1963, and it draws its power of investigation from Delhi Special Police Establishment Act 1946. Because CBI has taken the position of this special police establishment that was originally formed in 1941 and used to work under Delhi Special Police Establishment Act 1946. Concerning the working and the investigative power of CBI and also in the Sushant Singh Rajput's case, what's very important for exam is Section 6 of Delhi Special Police Establishment Act 1946. There is a concept of general consent. Since R is a federal setup and CBI is a central policing agency, but police is under the state list. So for CBI to function, carry out its investigation process, a general consent has to be taken from the government of the state. Although Section 5 of the Act allows the central government to extend the power and jurisdiction of CBI to the states, but Section 6 says that such an extension of jurisdiction cannot happen without the consent of government of that state, unless it's a union territory or a railway area. And because of this, many state governments like Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, even other states like Sikkim, they have not given the general consent. In case of Sikkim, the general consent was taken away after the case was filed by CBI against the Chief Minister of Sikkim, but the charge sheet was not done. So you must understand that because the state government of Maharashtra was not ready to transfer the case to CBI, there was a conflict between the state government of Bihar and the state government of Maharashtra. But you must remember that in 2010, Supreme Court gave a judgment, and Supreme Court made it abundantly clear that when Supreme Court or the High Court directs that a particular investigation be handed over to CBI, then there is no need of any consent under Delhi Special Police Establishment Act 1946. That means the state's consent will be immaterial in that case if Supreme Court or a High Court directs for a CBI investigation. So in this case, even if the case could not have been registered in Bihar and the state of Maharashtra was not allowing CBI, then the Supreme Court could have imposed it, or any other High Court could also have imposed it. But interestingly, in the judgment, Supreme Court also has made reference to Article 142. Suppose this previous judgment of Supreme Court of 2010 would not have been there, and the general understanding would have been this, that the state government consent is required for CBI to take up any case. Even then, Supreme Court could have imposed the investigation of CBI in this case, and that comes from the technology of Article 142. Under the power bestowed on Supreme Court by Article 142, Supreme Court may pass such decree or make such order as is necessary for doing complete justice in any cause or matter pending before it. So in the public interest, if Supreme Court would have admitted the Sushant Singh Rajput case ordinarily, if discussion of CBI would not have arose, even then the Supreme Court, for doing complete justice, could have ordered CBI investigation under the power bestowed on it by the Constitution by Article 142 to do complete justice. So these are the things that you have to know from the exam perspective. If the question is, how has COVID-19 impacted labor market in India? The answer could be as follows. COVID-19 has impacted the labor market in India in the following manner. According to data based on report from Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, COVID-19 has impacted the formal sector where there are salaried workers differently from the informal sector, which is dominated by small traders and laborers. According to the data given by CMIE, in the informal sector, the job loss was highest in the month of April, and recovery by the month of July has also been highest. If you see this graph, the job loss in April was very high and the job loss in July is very less. That means the informal sector has shown the sign of recovery. But for salaried employees, the job loss was less in the month of April, but the job loss has increased slightly in the month of July. So instead of recovering, the formal sector now is showing the sign of deterioration. Entrepreneurs also have shown the sign of recovery. It is understandable that in the formal sector for the salaried workers, the strength, the capacity of absorbing the shock is higher. So the employers were waiting for some time to assess the impact of COVID-19. And when it is started to prolong, then the firing has started in the formal sector. Interestingly, in the farm sector, there was no job loss. Instead, there were job gain, and the job gain has increased in the month of July compared to the month of April. This is also very intuitive, but you have to tell me the reason for job gain in the farm sector, where in all other sectors there is job loss. Point number 2 is, salaried employees were less likely to lose job, but also less likely to regain the lost job. Point number 3 is, the lockdown impacted job loss in the young workers more than the experienced workers, which is also very understandable. Point number 4 is, young women are in particular affected the most. In April and May after the lockdown, the share of young workers below the age of 21 among the new Employee Provident Fund registration fell considerably, and the ratio of male to female employee increased. If the ratio of male to female is increasing, that means the strength of female is decreasing at a faster rate than male. It fell down from 4.1 to 3.9. This number is not so very important for the exam, but you have to know that the job loss for young female has been more than young male. Point number 5. A very worrying data is coming from the report of Asian Development Bank and International Labour Organization. Nearly 6.1 million youth in the age group of 15 to 24 may lose their job in India if the virus is not contained by September 2020. And it's very less likely that the virus will be contained by September. So in that case, the unemployment rate will increase to 32.5%. The unemployment rate in India will rise to 32.5%, and this is higher than other nations like Bangladesh, like Pakistan, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia. As you can see in the graph, the baseline for 2019 was already very high. So the number for 2020 is also proportionally higher than other nations. There are 5 small points but can constitute a good answer in the economy in the coming mains examination. There is a news article on page number 10. Ex-Judge Kurian calls for intra-court appeal. Retired Justice Kurian Joseph has given the statement in context of Supreme Court's decision to punish Prashant Bhushan in the contempt case. Justice Kurian Joseph has suggested that there has to be a provision of intra-court appeal in the suo motu contempt cases in Supreme Court, which presently does not exist. Justice Joseph has suggested such a mechanism in the apex court to avoid remotest possibility of miscarriage of justice in the contempt cases. This case of Prashant Bhushan has snowballed into a big issue, and now constitutional questions are being raised on the matter of contempt. It becomes a very important topic for Polity and Governance section in the coming mains examination. Justice Kurian Joseph has argued that there are more graver issues involving the substantial question of law as to the interpretation of Constitution of India in the present contempt case. Among many questions, one of the questions is whether a person convicted by Supreme Court of India in a suo motu case should get an opportunity for intra-court appeal, because in all other situations of conviction in criminal matters, this provision of appeal is available. Also, there is provision of intra-court appeal in cases of High Court. If the contempt case has been decided by a single judge bench of a High Court, then under Section 19 of Contempt of Courts Act 1971, there is a provision of intra-court appeal. And even if the judgment has come from a division bench of the High Court, then the appeal can be done in the Supreme Court of India. But if a contempt order has been passed by Supreme Court of India, then presently there is no recourse. You cannot do appeal against that. So Justice Joseph is raising this question, why there should not be a mechanism of appeal in the case of conviction in a suo motu criminal contempt case by Supreme Court of India. Justice Joseph in this regard has quoted a Latin phrase which means, "Let justice be done, though the heavens fall." And this is the fundamental basis of administration of justice by courts in India. Justice Joseph also has taken recourse to Article 145.3. Under Article 145.3 of the Constitution of India, there shall be a quorum of minimum 5 judges for deciding any case involving substantial question of law as to the interpretation of Constitution. Justice Joseph is of the opinion that in both the cases of suo motu contempt case against Prashant Bhushan, there is a substantial question of law on the interpretation of Constitution of India that is going to have repercussions on fundamental rights. And that is why the matter is required to be heard by a constitutional bench. Justice Joseph cites the example of Justice Karnan, where it was the collective wisdom of the full court of Supreme Court that the matter should be heard by at least 7 senior-most judges. So since this present case of Prashant Bhushan also raises substantial question of law, it requires the interpretation of Constitution of India, so must be dealt with a constitutional bench. There is another argument of Justice Joseph that important cases like these must be heard elaborately in a physical hearing, where there is a scope for a broader discussion and wider participation. As you would know, Supreme Court is not having physical hearing presently, and the Prashant Bhushan case has been done by online hearing. So in the opinion of the judge, this case could have waited. There is a news on page number 1, Government to set up National Recruitment Agency. Yesterday, the Cabinet has cleared the proposal to set up National Recruitment Agency, making a paradigm shift in the government recruitment process. See, the thing is, presently candidates seeking government job have to appear for separate examination conducted by multiple recruitment agencies for various posts. For instance, people give SBI Bank PU exam. They also give IBPS exam. They also give SSC. They also give exam for RRB. And for multiple examination fee have to be paid. Not only that, the examination centers for different exams are at different locations, many a times in different cities. That causes lots of inconvenience to the candidates. According to the government data, approximately 1.2 lakh government jobs are advertised every year, for which 2.5 crore aspirants appear in various examinations. So this reform is going to bring convenience to 2.5 crore citizens. The idea here is the preliminary examination, the screening process, will be conducted by National Recruitment Agency. And then the second level or the third level for the interview will be taken up by the specialized agencies. So these bodies will not be dissolved. IBPS, SSC, RRB, they will still exist, but the first stage, the preliminary examination, will be conducted by NRA. Let's look at the silent features of the working of newly proposed and cleared National Recruitment Agency. NRA will conduct common eligibility test for recruitment to non-gazetted posts in government and public sector banks. The common eligibility test will be conducted twice a year, as generally SSC and the banks exams are conducted. But there will be different common eligibility tests for the graduate level, 12th pass and the 10th pass level. There are some major reforms which is commendable. First of all, the test will be conducted in 12 major languages. So far, the recruitment exam was being conducted only in English and Hindi. In the beginning, the common eligibility test conducted by National Recruitment Agency will cover recruitments made by SSC, RRB and IBPS. Later on, more agencies may be covered under this. It is planned that the common eligibility test will be held in 1,000 centers across India. This will correct the present urban bias of the examination centers. There will be at least one center in every district and special thrust on creating examination infrastructure in the 117 aspirational districts. There is another major reform which was much due. The score of the eligibility test will be valid for 3 years, as is generally the case for examination like GRE. But thus far, this kind of mechanism was not there in the entrance examinations or the recruitment examinations in India. Government has said that there will be no restriction on the number of attempts taken by the candidate. However, there will be an upper age limit. Students will have lots of advantages because of this new recruitment process that is in the offing. First of all, it will remove the hassle of appearing in multiple examination centers. Presently, students go to Allahabad to give the exam, then they have to catch up the late night train back to Delhi, and next day they have to leave again for Coimbatore. All that hassle will now go away for the preliminary examination. Since there will be one examination at the first stage, so there will be one examination fee, and that will reduce the financial burden on the students. And since the exam will be conducted in every district, so that will substantially save the travel and lodging cost for the candidates. And also, since the examination will be conducted in every district, the female candidate will not have problem of traveling. They can give the exam in their own district. This will also do away the problem of clashing of examination dates, whether to give SSC or SBI Bank PO. Many a times, that is a big dilemma. The recruitment institutions will also be benefiting from the new mechanism, which will remove the hassle of conducting the preliminary or the screening test. The new mechanism will drastically reduce the recruitment cycle, as there will be only one screening test, so there does not have to be gaps between various examinations conducted by various recruiting agencies. This will also standardize the examination pattern. Since different agencies don't have to conduct multiple examinations, there will be reduction in the cost of recruitment, and it is expected that Rs 600 crore saving will happen. Amid all these evident benefits that will come from NRA, can you think of some disadvantages that students may have to face? Okay, now I will ask you a few questions and you try to answer that. It will be pretty easy for you because I am going to ask you only from within what we have discussed so far. The first question is, Russian gas pipeline Nord Stream 2 will pass through the Baltic Sea. True or false? During the course of our discussion, I showed you this map, and this indeed passed through the Baltic Sea. Did you observe it then? So this is obviously a correct statement. Statement number 2 is, the total trade between India and China is higher than that between China and Russia. During our discussion, we saw that China-Russia trade has more than doubled to $108 billion after the US sanction. The latest data on India-China trade is $92 billion. So although India-China trade used to be higher than China-Russia, but in the wake of US sanction, that has surpassed India-China trade. So the statement will be incorrect. The next statement for you is, China has strategically invested in Russia in a $400 billion deal over 30 years to supply gas to China along eastern border, and this project is known as Power of Siberia. During the course of our discussion, we saw that China has been strategically investing in Russia, trying to integrate the economy of Russia into Chinese economy. And this is one way in which China is doing this. The gas pipeline from Russia will run along the eastern coast of China, and this has been termed as the power of Siberia. So the statement here is correct. The next statement is S-400 missile system has been developed by China. During the discussion, we saw that Russia has supplied S-400 missile system to China, and Russia does not want China to become self-sufficient in defense. So the statement is incorrect. The next statement is CBI is a statutory body. Think about it and then decide your answer. CBI is not a statutory body. Although CBI draws its power from Delhi's Special Police Establishment Act 1946, but CBI has been actually formed by a resolution of Home Ministry in 1963. So the statement is incorrect. CBI is not a statutory body. A state must compulsorily give general consensus for CBI to take up case in that state. True or false? We saw during the course of our discussion that according to Section 5 of the Act, central government can enlarge the jurisdiction of CBI. But as per Section 6, that requires consent from the government of that state. However, we also noted that Supreme Court has ruled in 2010 that if a High Court or Supreme Court directs CBI to take up a case, then in that case consensus by the state is not required. So the statement here saying a state must compulsorily give general consensus makes that incorrect. So far, it must have been very easy to say either true or false. Now let me ask you an analytical question. What about Article 142? What do you think is the significance of Article 142 of Indian Constitution? And second part of the question is how it has impacted the power balance between executive and judiciary. Think about it a little. If not now, then you must be ready with this question during the course of your preparation of polity. Now I'll give you an easy one. As per Article 145(3) of the Constitution of India, there shall be a quorum of minimum 7 judges for deciding any case involving substantial question of law as to the interpretation of the Constitution. Obviously, this statement is incorrect because it's not 7, it's actually 5. Okay, again I'll give you an easy statement. There is no provision of intra-court appeal against the criminal contempt case. See, during the course of our discussion, we have seen that as per Section 19 of Contempt of Court Act 1971, an intra-court appeal is provided in case of High Court if the judgment has come from a single judge bench. But if the judgment has come from a division bench of a High Court, then still the appeal can be done. It won't be intra-court appeal, but the appeal can be done in Supreme Court of India. However, if the judgment has come from Supreme Court of India, in that case there is no recourse and there is no concept of intra-court appeal against the criminal contempt in Supreme Court of India. So to say in general there is no intra-court appeal against criminal contempt, the statement would be incorrect because here it has not been specified Supreme Court. It simply says there is no provision of intra-court appeal against criminal contempt case. There is a provision in case of High Court. There is no provision in case of Supreme Court. Let me give you the last statement for today. The newly proposed National Recruitment Agency will subsume agencies like SSC, IBPS and RRB. Well, again, it's a straightforward incorrect statement because National Recruitment Agency is not going to subsume these agencies. It is only going to take up the task of conducting the screening, the preliminary exam. The examination for latter stages will still be conducted by the respective recruitment board. Now let's see question for the day. Yesterday's question was the concept of no-go zones and go zones can be associated with Indian Railway, coal mining, border dispute with Nepal, none of the above. This is an easy one. This is associated with option B, coal mining. Today's question is this. Consider the following statements regarding CBI. Statement 1, it is the premier investigating police agency in India. Statement 2, it is a statutory body. Statement 3, it cannot investigate a case in a state without the consent of the state. Select the correct option, 1 only, 1 and 2 only, 1 and 3 only, all of the above. With this, we have come to the end of today's session. Thank you very much. And do attempt the DNS quiz and the DNS question that we have posted today.